You may not believe it or not, but you and I are connected. Wherever you may be across the globe or wherever you are watching this, you and I are connected in mysterious ways. But there's something that is even more evident, the differences, right? And that's the reason why there is a lack of awareness of the oneness, is because there are so many ways for me and you to say that we're different. And when you actually go right to the core of your beliefs and your belief system, you will realize that we have more in common than you think. And one of the differences that we do have is religion. And I will show you how religion separates instead of uniting. Let's get to it. Hey, this is John Quinn, and if this is your first time visiting my channel, make sure you click on that subscribe button, click on the bell as well, dong, so you get a notification every single time I put out a brand new video. My goal with this channel is to provide you with awareness and knowledge so you can start taking charge of your own life and start improving and becoming who you were destined to be when you were set down on this earth in your body. When I talk about beliefs that make us different, religion is one of the biggest one that comes up. Why? Because I feel like religion plays such a major role in every single person that I've met's existence. I was brought up in a Christian home, both of my parents being Christian. From a very young age, I used to go to church all the time. But there were so many things about Christianity that I loved, but there were also so many things about it that I hated. I realized that for me, like my culture and my tradition, got mixed in with religion, right? And this idea of who Jesus is and what his work was about got distorted. Beyond just that, my mindset became so closed, right? I remember growing up is that I was told to believe certain things. Basically, I memorized verses like John 3:16. I memorized a bunch of verses, but I never really understood what it meant. And every single time I had questions, the people that taught me my religion, leaders in the church, people that knew the Bible, would tell me, well, that's just the way things are. That's just the way God made it. And for me, it never made sense that if there was a God and he created me, and I could tell that I was, yes, different from everybody else, but he also said that he loves everyone the same. How could he not love every other being on the planet, every other human? So that became something that I started questioning, and that became an inconsistency in my beliefs. I started realizing how close-minded religion was, how it's always about believing that, oh, our religion is much better than yours because it makes more sense to us than it does to you. And I came to realize that a lot of the affiliation that came with being Christian was because of how it made people feel. A lot of people go through difficulties and trauma. We all do that all around the world. People go through pain and suffering, and whatever thing that makes them feel better, there is still hope in the world, becomes what they hold on to. And for Christianity, it is so widespread in my African community that that was the only thing that could give people hope. Hope that it's okay to be poor. It's okay to be in a third world country. It's okay to suffer and to go through the difficulties that we were going through, because there is hope that there is a Jesus that came from overseas and his word found us, and that is giving us hope for a better life when we die. But that doesn't necessarily mean that it is the truth of all people. See, when I started breaking down religion, I started asking myself questions. And there would be times where I'd be sitting in a church and witnessing how the tradition, the way that our tribes used to do things that became a tradition that is carried in our societies and our communities, was being unfolded in the church. And I used to ask myself, I'm like, is this what the love of God is? But I also understand that these people didn't know better, right? I realized that in like religion was all about scolding. So for instance, I used to translate in the church, right? What I would do is that I would translate from French to English for any guest speakers or any speakers that were more comfortable speaking in French than they would in English, right? And I remember, because I used to do that, people would come up to me and be like, you know, because you're standing up on the pulpit now, you have to start behaving this way. You have to start dressing this way. You can hang out with these types of people and you can hang out with those type of people. But really, to me, I was doing it because I cared about helping the people in the church that couldn't get the message in French. I wanted to be able to be almost a catalyst for the message that came from the speaker to the people, but I never did it to be some sort of preacher or some sort of person that's above. It's almost like I was being demanded to carry myself above everyone else. And that didn't sit right with me because I wasn't better than anybody else by standing on that pulpit. All I was doing is translating a message to other people. And I realized that that's what it became. Religion has this idea of God that is, God is up over there and we are down here, and God is better than us, and we are not connected to God, and we are not worthy enough to be before God unless we're going through the appointed ones of God. And of course, those people have been appointed as messengers to speak, but they have not been appointed as deities to be worshipped and revered. That is tradition. I went back and I looked at the way I grew up in my tradition. There are chiefs in villages, and those chiefs are almost worshipped like deities and served and bowed before. And that's kind of like what the church has become for me in my experience. I used to see that people used to be more concerned about bowing at the feet of a human being rather than the one who created them. And that bothered me. That bothered me, that the ego and the selfishness and this idea of service to self had made its way into the idea of what God should be to people, which is what religion becomes. And I totally don't believe in religion since then. I don't believe that I'm a Christian, that I'm a Buddhist. I don't believe in any of that stuff. I just believe in love. Because when I looked at every different culture, no matter if it was Hinduism, no matter if it was Judaism, no matter if it was Buddhism, no matter if it was Islam or Christianity, there was one thing that remained constant, and that is love. Right? Have you ever heard the concept of the elephant? The concept of the elephant is that there were 6 blind people, and they had never seen an elephant before. And they were all asked to go see and touch an elephant to describe what it would be to them. And all 6 of them, never seen an elephant before and being blind, would touch different parts of the elephant. One would touch its trunk, one would touch its leg, one would touch its side, one would touch its ears, one would touch its horns. And when they were asked to describe to each other what the elephant was, one said that the elephant is like a spear, sharp like a spear, because he was holding onto the horn. The one holding onto the trunk said that the elephant is long like a snake. Right? And the one holding onto the leg said that the elephant is wide and round and stern like a tree. And the one holding onto the side said that the elephant is like a wall. Right? The one holding onto the ears said that the elephant was like a fan. And the one holding onto the tail said that the elephant was like a rope. Now, to me, if you replace those blind people, it is the same thing that I see in religion. Religion tries to explain something that no one has ever really experienced as a collective. When you talk of the idea of God, it's not as simple as a scientific experiment where you have a variable that gives you an outcome, but it is more complex. No one has ever experienced God, no one has ever known God, no one can ever comprehend God. It is an unknown aspect to us. What we know is that we are here and we are created, and is an aspect that I couldn't grasp in my mind and make sense of knowing God. So I never knew God, and the idea of God that I have is what was told to me. And that's the same thing for every perspective in every culture and every religion, right? Because people never really experience God the way me and you experience each other. But we try to make sense of him. And it's like those blind men trying to make sense of the elephant. And sometimes from our perspective and our backgrounds and the way we come from, we might be only facing one aspect of the elephant. It might be the spear, it might be the horns, it might be the tail, it might be the leg, it might be the side, right, of the elephant, it might be the ears. So from each culture is exposed to a different part of the elephant. But when we all take a step back, you will see that all those different aspects are all part of one being, which is the elephant. That the spear and the tail is no less the elephant than the leg and the side. They're all part of the elephant, and even together they create the elephant. So when I took my step back, questioning my beliefs and my religion, I started to see that the one thing that remained in all culture is that God was love. Love towards us and love towards all things. And I started to believe that in truth, God isn't about being Christian, isn't about being Hindu, isn't about being all these different things that are differences and matter. God is about being love. And in truth, I realized that when I started seeing things this way, I never cared about someone's differences. Like, yes, they were different and I accepted those differences. My best friend, who is Caucasian, different from me, completely different culture, grew up in a different world than mine, but we were bonded and we were connected through love. Love is that one thing that transcends the differences. And that's what this world needs. And that's what we need to see. That's what I needed to see. And when I saw that, I started understanding that I am connected to all people through love. Love is the thing that connects us. Despite the fact that we have similarities and differences, we have different similarities. We all feel emotions. We all have all these, similarities. We may have the same physical structures, or we may have the same culture or the same language, and we may have all these other similarities. But the one thing that allows me to see myself in someone else has been love. When I could see that another person is loved by a creator just as much as I am loved, despite my culture, my religion, and my faith, despite what I believe, being a Christian, grew up in Congo, God loves me just as much as He loves them. I started seeing myself in them, despite the religion. So this is me. That's when I realized that it doesn't matter what religion you come from. What matters is that the one who created you loves you just as much as He created me. Now, we both don't know who that creator is, and we're only exposed to different aspects of Him. But there's no way we're going to make sense of who that creator is if I only hold on to my views and you only hold on to your views. And we don't find what unites us. And what unites us is love. And love is one. So in the concept of religion, I realize how the oneness applies through love. That now I don't care about being Christian or being Buddhist or being atheist or being all those things. I simply believe in the God of love. Because to me, God is love. And so long as He loves every other being that exists on this planet, everything that has been created is loved by God because it was created, then I see myself in it. And I think that's what we need more. We need to focus more on the love. Loving someone that is Hindu, not because they're Hindu or they're different from you, and not because Jesus says so, but because you understand that in that person, God sees something that you have and loves that person in the same way that He loves you. And when I say God, is whatever concept of a creator that you have. And that doesn't matter to me. Because if we were all created by the same being, it doesn't matter how you describe it or how I describe it, right? It's like if I was holding an apple in front of you, to me an apple is pomme, but to you an apple is apple. And if I was to debate with you all day about why I call it pomme and that's the right way to say it because it's French, and why English is the right way to describe it, we will never amount to anything. But that still doesn't change the fact that the apple remains an apple, whether you say it in French, whether you say it in English. It remains what it is. Same way God will remain who He is. If He's the creator of all things, He will remain the creator of all things. Even if I see Him from a Christian perspective, and my best friend sees Him from an Hindu or an Islamic or Judaist perspective, that doesn't matter because He is still the same. So why waste time fighting each other over what way to describe Him instead of just focusing on what He is for you and for me? So we are one despite the religion. If you dig deep in your belief, you will see that we are one and we are connected through love. If this video was helpful to you, make sure you share with a family member or a friend. And of course, don't forget to subscribe by clicking on that subscribe button. Click on the bell as well. Smash the like because it does help me quite a bit. This is John Pinner with the Awakened Soul Tribe. My goal with this channel is to provide you with knowledge because knowledge is power. Power to free yourself. But the question is, do you want to?